Live from our headquarters in Lagos, Nigeria. If you just joined in, this is Enterprise Friday on Enterprise Television. And now to our main conversation for today. A federal high court in Kano has nullified all actions by the Kano state government, repealing the Kano Emirate Council law of 2019. In the ruling on Thursday, Mohammed Liman, the presiding judge, ordered parties to maintain the status quo. But Liman, who held that the defendants were aware of an interim order previously granted by the court but ignored it and implemented the law, said he would assume his coercive powers to enforce compliance with the court order and think it is a very serious matter for anyone to flout the orders of the court and go scot-free with it. The defendants who had challenged the court's jurisdiction to hear the suit and the local standi of the applicants were told by Liman that the applicants were at liberty to contest the legality of their dethronement, but that this order does not affect the validity of the law, which is the subject matter, and refuse the prayer by the applicants to nullify the law. Conversely, the judge transferred the case to another federal high court judge, Simon Amobeda, for continuation, given his elevation to the Court of Appeal. And stay with us in the studio to do justice to this very trendy but sensitive topic is Opeoluwa Taiwo and Vice Vance Ufele. Thank you, gentlemen, for hanging out and being part of our show today. Now let's get into the meaty part of our discussion now. Going back to the status quo, and which is going back to where it all started. If we must go back to the status quo, shouldn't we be talking about going back to when Sanusi himself was dethroned?
No. Sanusi's dethronement is not a status quo.
Really?
Yes. Sanusi's dethronement led to an extension of the emirate. As at the time Sanusi was there, he was the emir of the entire region before it was divided into four. Additional three. So the status quo, because a law had to be enacted to that effect. Okay? To add additional emirates. And then the status quo is has to do with the immediate past emir. Okay, if we're going back to something. But the issue here is this. You see, this judgment is what they call a punitive judgment under the law. Okay. You know, when the current governor signed into law the new law to revert back to what it used to be, you understand, before Ganduje. Mm-hmm. Someone was aggrieved, one of the chieftain of the emirate was aggrieved and he went to court. Now, when he went to court, he sought the order of the court to restrain, you know, the current governor and the implementation of the law just signed. You understand? And the appointment of Sanusi, the reappointment of Sanusi. All that, the implementation, there was an order of court restraining them not to implement it. Okay? Because someone has gone to court to enforce his fundamental rights. What they ought to have done, or at that point, they ought to have maintained the status quo, given that somebody has gone to court. And then go and file their counter affidavit against that suit. You know, evidencing and giving reasons why the person who said his rights have been violated have none of his rights violated because it's a validly passed law by the state government, and the governor upon that law have now appointed a new emir, and then there's a reversal of fortune. Mm-hmm. We are going back to where we used to be. So, you see, from what the governor did to the appointment to the law the State House Assembly passed and all that, they are all valid issues. Even the judge said it. Yeah. They are all okay. Mm. Do you understand? The only part they got it wrong was when somebody goes to court and he got an interim injunction restraining the governor and the whole from implementing the order of court did not say the appointment was wrong. He didn't say the law passed was wrong. He didn't say the governor does not have a right to sign a bill into a law at the local government level. He didn't say all that. We say somebody is in court, then stay execution. Don't implement that until this matter is dispensed with. The day the judgment was given, that was the same day Sanusi was sworn in. And the celebration, the coronation and all the coronation and all that, everything went smooth as though there were no order of court. So now that they now went and filed the accountant, filed the proper processes, this is now the outcome. The court is now in protest. Okay. The court now wants to punish preemptive judgment to say that the orders of this court, you flouted it even before you enter your defense, your counter affidavit. Before you even surrender yourself to the jurisdiction of the court, you had flouted the order of the court because you went ahead, did your correction, did everything. And so it's one that every judge that knows what he's doing exactly will do that. And the judge on that reference have been elevated to the Court of Appeal. So, and I've now transferred that case to another judge at the Federal High Court. But he must, as a matter of, this is how it should go. And I said that nobody, including a governor, have a right to violate a court order. This is what the law should be. Okay. Remember, this judgment is not to the merit of the case.
Yes, exactly.
You understand me? It's not on the merit of the case. So the next judge now, when they go on appeal, or whatever it is, then they will look at the merit of the case. But that they should not be punished for it. Now, the law now is that everything that the current governor have done have been reversed by the court. Let them now go on appeal.
So reversing, does that mean that the ousted Emir is now the Emir?
That is the status quo.
That's what it means.
That is the status quo. They are to revert. But what will happen is the current Emir, they will file an action, appeal, and then file what you call a motion. A motion to stay execution of that judgment pending the determination of the appeal. I don't know if you understand that. The courts now have delivered this judgment saying the governor, the defendant and all of them violated the orders of the court because somebody was in court and they went ahead when the court has given a ruling. Now, go back to the status quo. Now, the order this court have made now, you can also bring a motion if you are going on appeal to ask that this order, the subsequent order now, execution on it be stayed.
Okay.
You understand why you go on appeal? Oh. That is what Sanusi will do now. Meanwhile, when the court gave an order in this way, the same way that they should stay implementation of the appointment, they did not. But now they are going to run to the law now to ask that the subsequent order of court now, that a self-execution, but you cannot appeal without bringing a self-execution. So they will put that and then appeal. Then when they get to the Court of Appeal, perhaps the Court of Appeal will now look into the merits, whether or not the State House of Assembly have a right under the law to pass the law, and whether the governor have a power to assent to that bill into law, and whether the governor have a power to appoint or reappoint someone who have been there before. Those are issues for determination on appeal. But as for the courts, the court of first instance, it has punished them effectively, and that is to say that all you did should hereby be reversed.
All right. As fantastic as this theoretical postulate as analyzed by Barrister is, do you think in any way, knowing the way politics is played in Nigeria, do you think these politicians truly do understand all of these things? Because knowing the kind of politics we play in Nigeria where everyone can be brought over, do you think the politicians who did all of this understood what they should have done? Or is it that they were careless about not knowing that they should have done the needful that has brought them back to where they are not interested about?
Right, for Nigeria as a country, the political elites, that is the gladiators in the system, usually understand the process in law and of the law. Like the barrister has assisted us to analyze the applications of the law. Not theory. They are not theory. The applications. That is evident, that is visible to everyone. And the political elite also understand all of this application as a barrister has analyzed to us. So beyond that, we must understand that when we operate a principle that protects some sects as being above the law, this will be the result we'll be getting as a citizen. And that is why it has always been said that the judiciary still remains the only hope, or perhaps the last hope of the common man. But in this particular case, in this particular case, we are not talking about a common man. So you see among the elites. So if the case is already in court, and you have to do something that will negate what is already in the court, what's the necessary thing to do is for you yourself to go back to court. Please allow me to continue. Please ignore this man that has come to pray against me in the court. Because one thing that happens in the court, that the little knowledge I have, is that law is law. But there are sentiments in court based on the prayers of both the defendant and the plaintiff, as a result of their legal representation. So the sentiment is always in line with the prayers. So if what you are thinking is not the prayer of the plaintiff, then you can see that you are already out of the system. Because the law is the law, but the prayers are subject of the law. Somebody is coming up to say that I am the current Emir. That is the prayer of Bayero. All right? Now, the House of Assembly, in their own wisdom, believe that this is an indictment on their personality, on their state. That how can a single man call himself a governor, depose a traditional ruler, not a political office holder, a traditional ruler for that matter, a very high esteemed traditional ruler for that matter, being deposed by ordinary governor because you have executive power, which is not supposed to be so. And it's also an indictment on the traditional rulers also. They are not separated from all of this indictment, because they accepted the process of begging or being subjugated by the governors as a result of what? Economic powers. Don't forget, the traditional rulers will continue to be in power even after the 8 years of the governor. So why are we subjecting ourselves to the economic power of the governor, who will stay in power just for 8 years, just because of his billions? Are you saying that you can't get much more than that as a traditional ruler if you protect your people and you do the right thing at the right time?
But that was what Sanusi did all the while. He spoke truth to power, which of course has got him into the hot waters that he himself.
In Nigeria, when you are speaking to power, you must also understand the readings of the law. As he was speaking to power, he must understand the legal implication of each of the press statements he was making. So he should have armed himself adequately with the application of the law. And because he refused to do that, maybe he was too confident as a traditional ruler, or was too confident of his what? Of his connection within the system. So the law has taken course on him. But as of today, nothing to be done. We still remain and we wait for the next action by the court of law.
All right, so while we wait for the next action from the court of law, at what point do you think legally we should call it a stop? Because just like you did say that the team of Sanusi has to go back to appeal, I guess.
That is what they will do.
Yes. So at what point would the other team equally say, if this is what they are going to do, this is the next thing we would do. Legally, at what point do you think parties can, or the law itself mandates a stop so they can hear of what has been presented to them before moving to the next?
Oh, there's nothing like the law mandates a stop. I mean, when you are in court with an opposing party and the court gives a judgment or a ruling, if you are dissatisfied with it, you appeal. That's just what it is. Okay. Section 287 of the Constitution says that where you are not satisfied with the judgment of the magistrate court, you can appeal to the High Court. Where you are not satisfied with the judgment of the High Court, you can appeal to the Court of Appeal. Where you are not satisfied and the case is such that requires the Supreme Court, because some cases stop at the Court of Appeal, appeal will stop. Okay. So then you can appeal to the Supreme Court. Okay, so that is the KEDA. Yeah, that's the KEDA. So now remember that this judgment we're discussing this morning is not on the merit of the case. It's not on the merit of the case. It was born out of the disobedience, okay, contempt, okay, of the court had ruled on interim basis that do not implement, and you went ahead and coronated Sanusi the same day. He assumed office the same day. He started operation the same day. Then you use police to take down Adoba, what's his name? Yes. Bayero. Yeah, you took him out. You know, almost like excommunicating him.
So Nasara.
Yes. When there is a standing court order that you should not implement what you have done, now the court came back at you. Of course, they are not going to sleep on their oars. They are going to go on appeal. Because if they don't appeal, it will mean that the law will now be the current judgment. So they'll go on appeal. And when they get to appeal, they will now formulate issues for determination and particulars of error of the court beneath. You understand? And they will be arguing that the court beneath erred in law, okay, to have stood on its interim order, okay, to reverse a law validly passed by the State House of Assembly and validly assented by the governor, and an appointment of an elected governor reversed. You understand? Whether or not the court below have such power and authority to overturn in that regard. So they'll be arguing all that on appeal. The adverse party will also file their appellate brief. You will go to file it and they will go on appeal and then measure. There will be some level of intellectual legal fireworks. That display will happen there. Whoever loses and whoever is not satisfied will take the matter up again. So that is how the law works. So
but at this point, when we just have heads up right now that the Kano state government has ordered for the demolition of Bayero's palace, what do you think this will equally translate as we go on with
the governor should be well guided. I mean, you should have an attorney general that knows the law. No further action that will infuriate the legal system should be undertaken. None should be, because they don't need that demolition. What they need is just a stay of execution, a motion to stay execution of this judgment while they appeal. That's all. In doing so, the deposed governor will not, if they file that appeal and serve, file that motion to stay execution and serve, the former emir will not move from where he is. If he does anything against that motion to stay execution, he too will be in contempt of court. I don't know that you're saying, the law is technical. But what I'm saying is that you don't need to go and demolish anything so that it does not, what they are trying to do now is to go and demolish so that it will not resume office, right? True. You don't need that. a motion to stay execution of this judgment already keeps him where he is. He cannot move because the judgment that would have guaranteed him to move, that judgment have been arrested or paralyzed by a motion to stay execution. You understand? So once a motion is filed to stay execution, the action of the court, the action that the court mandates is frozen. And it will remain like that until the determination of the appeal. So it's when the appeal is determined and a judgment is given, then you can act. But before you act, if one side is not also satisfied and wants to go to the Court of Appeal or wants to go to the Supreme Court, he will bring a motion again to stay execution of the judgment of the Court of Appeal to enable them go to the Supreme Court. So the rest is protected. You cannot. You don't need to go and demolish anything.
So just before I go to in a jiffy, do you think the jurisdiction is actually meant for the federal court?
When there's a case between an individual and a government institution, the government institution is involved here. You go to the Federal High Court. Individual, a government institution, go to the Federal High Court. So, Federal High Court have jurisdiction. Ordinarily, on chieftaincy matters and matters of kingship, it is the State High Court that have jurisdiction. Okay? The State High. But this case was brought under fundamental right enforcement. Fundamental Section 46 of the 1999 Constitution says that if you perceive that your right is being unlikely to be breached, you must approach the High Court to file for the enforcement of your fundamental rights. Approach the High Court. The High Court in that context will mean the State High Court or the Federal High Court. Anyone you go have jurisdiction. Okay. But to add to this on jurisdictional issue, this is an action that arose between an individual, a chieftain of the emirate, and the government. So when you have an action between a person, an individual, and the government, ordinarily you go to the court of the Federal High Court. So if you look at it in both ways, jurisdiction lies in the Federal High Court. If it has been an action between an individual and against another individual, you don't need to go to the Federal High Court, you go to the State High Court. From where appeal will move to the Court of Appeal. The State High Court and the Federal High Court have concurrent jurisdiction. One is federal, one is state.
Fine. One place I often love to visit whenever I see trendy sensitive issues like this are a court of public judgment, and that's comment sessions on different social media platforms. Now, when you get to some of those comment sessions, Nigerians en masse have said that the reason Justice Liman is stepping down and giving it over to the next one is because he feels that
he's not stepping down, was elevated.
He was.
Isn't this in those elevated Court of Appeal now?
So does that mean he is therefore immune to continue the case?
Of course. That's what happened in Ojuzo Kalu's case now. Have you forgotten? Why is Ojuzo Kalu walking freely on the street? What happened? A judge sentenced him. Okay? He had been taken into custody. He was in Kirikiri. That judge that sentenced him had been elevated to the Court of Appeal, had resumed at the Court of Appeal before judgment was slated for Ojuzo Kalu's case. So on the day of judgment, he came down from the Court of Appeal to the Federal High Court to deliver that judgment. He does not have jurisdiction. Yes. You understand? So he has lost his power to give judgment in that case. He came from the Court of Appeal and came down there to do it. So what it means that what he did that day under the law can be set aside. It is forbidden.
Okay, so do you see this repeating?
He's not taking effect.
Yes, it just been announced.
Yes, they are not taking effect. So is this sitting now at the Federal High Court as we speak? Is this sitting?
Yeah, but he did say in our report he's handing over. Yes,
he's going to take a window to transfer all his cases. Because the moment he resumed, he cannot come down to determine anyone again.
Okay.
So he will transfer all the chief judge will transfer the cases to all judges. Then they will do what we call a send forth for him at the federal high court. Law is very ceremonial. And once they push him up, he loses all the power he had when he was at the federal high court. He can no longer deal with that. He will not be dealing with the Court of Appeal issue where they see three in panel.
All right. So let's take a look at this, because there are so much powers in play here. Of course, we can't exclude the federal government.
Don't rely on Nigerian section, comment section. You will be misled. They are not talking law there. They are talking settlements.
But you see, so when we talk about this, we can't totally exclude the big powers of the federal government and their stake in all of this, particularly our president, Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Now, do you think he has a stake in all of this? Because the powers that are coming in from different angles that are unknown is becoming humongous. Do you think the president has a stake in all of this? If he does, how much of a stake do you think he has?
Right. As a sitting president and having a high-ranking traditional having this kind of challenge, well, no doubt about it, there will always be a sentiment and there will always be a camp from the presidency and the rest. But at this junction, I don't think the president has anything to feature in what is happening, because that might be a catastrophe against 2027. So let's leave it like that for now.
All right, very well said. And the most important thing that we wish for is peace in Kano. And I want to believe that if the traditional, emirate is peaceful, Kano State in its entirety would equally be peaceful. I'd love to say thank you to Oluwa Taiwo for being part of our show today. Thank you for the awesome discussion and analysis. And Mr. Banks, thank you as always for being part of our show. And we'd love to say thank you to you also for making a date with us today. We sincerely do appreciate your time. But please do well to visit our website for more stories and information on www.enterprisetvnews.com. Like, comment respectfully, and follow us on all our social media platforms at Enterprise TV7. I am Henry Igobike. I'll see you next week Friday for yet another great time. Thank you for watching, and bye-bye from us.
Enterprise TV, a tradition of truth.